software engineering internship at Google isn't easy. You need solid full-stack end-to-end web development projects in your resume to stand out. Today I'm going to show you how I built an entire end-to-end full-stack web application with Nodejs in the backend and React in the front end. You don't need any specific concepts, just you need to follow along, trust me. You'll have enough knowledge at the end of this video to be able to add any kind of additional features. You can also use ChatGPT to make your project unique with respect to your resume, and you can also drop some ideas in the comments and I'll take a look. The database I'm going to use today is MongoDB, which is a NoSQL database, which means that data is stored in the form of key value pairs and not in the form of tables like rows and columns like in the case of traditional SQL. And I'll use Postman to send requests to our application to test it. I'll be using VS Code to develop the project. I use this Node.js documentation to get a good understanding of Node.js, and I use this ReactJS documentation to get a good understanding of React as the front end. And the MongoDB documentation here is also very good, and Postman using is extremely simple. Just once you see it, you will know it. You don't need any documentation at all. So first you will need to install VS Code from here. In here you are going to download VS Code and install it. We are going to download VS Code. So as soon as this finishes, then you are going to just click on all the pages. You are going to just click OK, and it will install everything by itself. We already have it installed, so we are not going to wait for that, and I'm going to cancel this. We are also going to need Postman, so let's download it right now. Yeah, for me, just check. You can check about this Mac here. It's Apple chip, so you're going to download the Apple chip one. You can use Postman without signing in, which is what we are going to do. So now that we have downloaded this, we are going to install it. Just click on this, very simple, then open, move to applications folder, and see, continue without an account. So you can just continue without an account and do the lightweight API client, which is what we are going to use. So now I'm going to show you how you can get a database on MongoDB, start up a database, and how you can upload files there, and how to get a connection URL that you can basically use in your application to be able to connect to this MongoDB database and get data, fetch data, add data, etc. And I'm going to show you exactly how easy it is to explore any kind of new things when you're trying them by yourself. Just create an account. I already have an account. Okay. So this is basically my organization. Inside here we have a project 0, which is the basic development project that all of us are assigned when we start using MongoDB. Okay, but for your sake, I'm going to create a new project and a new cluster so that I can show you how we basically set up the connection URL and get it. Let's go have a new project. You're going to give a project name. In our case, it's Node app. Members, it's only me. This can be useful when you're trying to collab. See, and just create a cluster here. Cluster 0. I'm not going to name cluster 0. I'm going to name data Google, since this was the internship that helped me land a Google internship. So I'm going to just give this name. Provider, keep it AWS, whatever it is. Tag you don't need. Just go for free. And go for create deployment. There you go. Exactly. This is going to, as you can see, this is created a username and password. Next thing is basically it will create as a connection URL. You can create database user with this. And next thing is choose a connection method. Just go with the default one, which is this one, and you need to do this npm install MongoDB, and this is basically our connection URL that we'll use in our application. Very easy, done. You have your connection URL as well. Just copy it and paste it somewhere and update your .env file with this. Sounds good? This is done, and here you can just get connection string and you will again get the connection string, but this DB password you will need to replace with the actual DB password which you copied earlier. and you can load sample data in it. You can add data here. Just create a database. Just create database on Atlas and you can directly create it. Database name can be anything, collection name can be anything, and just you can create it directly. Insert JSON document. It can be anything, like for example name, Srimanti. This is one, and another one could be like this. Anything, literally anything. Let's start coding now, shall we? Then go inside any kind of folder where you want to create your project. Say we are going to name it as Node app project, and then make two folders inside it, which is one is backend and the other one is frontend. We are going to develop the backend first and then move on to frontend. So first let's discuss the design that we are going to do for our project. So most full stack web applications are based on MVC or Model View Controller. The model is the part which handles the data and the rules. In our case, model is going to be the MongoDB, which is where our data lives. MongoDB stores all our information like user data, images data, text data, etc. that we are going to use in our application. The V stands for view. So this is what the user sees, or this is the front end of the application. In our case, this is going to be React plus Tailwind CSS, because Tailwind CSS is extremely good at making the app look very vibrant and modern and stylish, and React is going to make our front end functional. The controller is where all the business logic is. In our case, the controller is going to be Express API. So Express is like a framework on top of Nodejs. Nodejs lets us run our server, and Express makes it possible and very easy for us to run that server. Express cannot work without Nodejs, but Nodejs can work without Express, but we don't want to do that because Express makes our job much easier. So inside the backend folder, we are going to create index.js, which is going to be the entry point of our application. First, ensure whether you have the npm command installed or not. You can easily find how to install npm from the internet. First, you need to ensure whether you have Node.js downloaded or not. So this is the website for downloading Node.js, and these are the entire instructions that you will need to download Node.js. I already have it installed. You just need to copy here and then paste it here. So now go inside the backend folder and then do npm init while. This creates package.json, which is needed for running our application. Now let's write the code inside index.js. That's going to be the entry point of our application. So as I said, we are going to be using Express. So let's start writing the code. So const app equal to require express. So const express equal to require express. Next is going to be CORS. So CORS is basically something that we use to bypass all the checks when we are making requests to any kind of endpoint. So CORS is going to require CORS. Now const app is going to be express app, and const port is going to be the process.env.port or 3000 if it's not defined. So now comes a very important thing, which is .env file. So we are going to always need a .env file, which is going to contain all of our secrets that we don't want to be revealed to anybody else, or we don't want to be stored in our GitHub repository either, so that people can get access to this. So in our case, it's going to be port. So the ports that we are going to host our backend on, that is our backend Node.js server on. So I'm going to select the port to be 3001. You can select as and when, whatever you want. And if it's not defined, then it's going to anyway go over to 3000. You can choose it to be 5000 because in general, by convention, we use 3000 for our front-end hosting, that is front-end ReactJS. So it's going to use CORS so that it's able to bypass any kind of checks, and it's going to use express.json. Next is basically using the slash to send the data from like our backend, hello from the backend. So what does this slash mean? So just look at this. This is nodejs.org/en/download. So this is slash en is basically our homepage. Now this slash download is an API endpoint that we are going to, because we want to download Node.js. And if you wanted to get something, then you could do that as well. And this here, the data is always going to be get because we are not sending any kind of data in its body along with the request. We just want to access the web page which is there at this particular site. So in our case as well, this is going to be hello from backend when we are running the server on the port which we have defined here. Now, in order to access this port, we are going to need another package which is require.env.config. That's it. But now there's one problem. We don't have these packages yet. So if you go to package.json, you can see that you don't have any dependencies folder at all. So for the dependencies folder, we'll need all this. So let's see if we have npm version or not. We have it. So let's do npm I, which means npm I install the package name. So in our case, there's going to be cors package, there's going to be express package, there's going to be .env package. There's going to be .env package. Yeah, that's it from now. But we are also going to be needing nodemon. So let's install that as well. So what exactly is nodemon? Let me just tell you in one line. It's basically something that keeps the server running and keeps looking for file changes. So it hosts the server on the port and makes us make requests to the backend, and whenever we have any file changes to the inside the backend folder, it's going to stop the app and restart the app all by itself, which speeds development and speeds debugging and everything. So we are going to install nodemon as well, and I'm going to show you how to use it. So this is going to get installed. Yeah, it's installed. Let's see here. See, in the dependencies, it's got added for cors.env, express and nodemon. Sounds good? And since we added all these servers like express, nodemon, etc., this node modules got added. And after this, we are going to do app.listen on port. That is, it's going to listen on this port and keep being hosted, so that whenever the front end or we with curl make any request to this backend server, then it's able to process the request and show the required output. But it needs to keep listening. Yeah, so it's going to listen on the port and it's going to console.log server is running on this particular port. Okay, now if you can see that npm start does not work. So what's missing? See, inside the scripts we have only test. So npm test is going to work but nothing else, and it's going to just echo this, right? So basically for start we are going to do nodemon index.js. Generally for start we use node index.js, which means just one time hosting it, but for dev we are going to use nodemon index.js, which is because it's for development. So let's do npm run dev. See, server is running on this port. Let's see what's there. Hello from the backend. Perfect. So inside the backend folder, we are going to have 4 folders. First is controllers folder, which contains all the business logic that are necessary for our application. It contains the logic for handling auth like login and sign up, for getting data like get data, for hosting to forms, for updating databases, etc., all the business logic of our application. For example, when our React frontend sends a post request to /API/signup, then the controller processes this request, gets the response from our database and updates the database and does necessary stuff and sends back a response. Next comes the database folder. So database folder is necessary for setting up our connection with our database. It includes configuration files, connection files, etc. In our case, which is MongoDB, so it will manage the connection to our database. Next comes the models folder, which defines the structure of our data using schemas. So schemas refer to the skeleton of a particular entry in the database. For example, a user would have a schema as first name, last name, email, username, password. These models describe how the data is actually stored in the database, and as I said, controllers use this models folder to interact with the database with their business logic. Next comes the routers folder. It contains files that define the API endpoints for our backend. These files map specific HTTP requests like post/API/signup or post/API/login to specific business logic inside the controller. Now, what do I mean by API? API refers to Application Programming Interface. So API lets different parts of a program basically talk to each other. So in our case, the API endpoints are going to be /API/signup and /API/login. We are going to do post request. Post requests are different from get requests in the form that post requests send data in their body to the application, while get requests just gather the data from the server. Send data in their body to the application, while get requests just gather the data from the server. Okay, so now that we have all the folders in place, now what we are going to do is we are going to create the schema, which is the skeleton for the user that we are going to store in our database, because we are going to add authentication to our application for sure. So we'll need a list of users that we'll store in the database when they sign up with the password and username, first name, last name, email. And then when they try to log in with the email and the password, then we'll be able to match it in the database that we have stored in our MongoDB. And if the entry is inside the database, then we'll allow them to successfully log in and show a logged in successfully message. And any kind of request thereafter, they'll be able to do only if they are logged in, and otherwise we will not show them anything. So for this, as I said, we are going to write the schema inside models. So let's start doing that. See, inside the terminal, you could see that the change automatically did, like restarting due to changes and then starting Node.js. Nodemon is really good at this. So what we are going to need here is basically Mongoose, which is a front-end package with respect to MongoDB, and so const mongoose is going to require mongoose, and we are going to require the SWE package to help validate our username, password, and email and everything. So email, it should have gmail.com or mail.com, anything, yahoo.com at the end. We need to verify that as well. So for that, we are going to use SWE, which is a very popular validation package. Now the schema we are going to use from mongoose.schema, and the name, and it's going to be first thing is going to be first name, which is going to be type string, and it should be required. Last name should be required, email, password, and we'll also need our username. Now we are going to add another field, which is token. Why? Because let me explain this very properly. So what exactly is this token? This is a very important concept, so listen very carefully. So this token is the JWT, or the JSON Web Token. When the person logs in for the first time, then the server generates a token which is called JWT, or the JSON Web Token, that is associated with that particular user who has logged in, so that when you come back to the site after maybe 15 minutes after closing the site, you are still logged in. Why? Because that token is sent back to the user and it's stored in the user cache, and then when the user makes any kind of request from the logged in state to the particular server, it's able to recognize that token which is present in the request that they are sending to the server, and they're able to identify that the user is logged in and is able to identify which user this particular is. All users have different unique JWT tokens. That is why we are adding them in the user schema, and this is extremely crucial for maintaining the logged in state, and that is why we added it to our user schema. This token is refreshed after a couple of hours after it expires. Say you are not logged in forever, so this JWT token gets expired, and then the token inside the user schema also gets updated accordingly when the user next logs in next time. Cool. Now that you know why we exactly put in the token inside user schema, now let's write the logic to validate it using SWE. It's going to be const validate user, and then inside here we are going to do the schema joey.object. We're not going to do so many things like min 3, max 30, etc. Just that it's required and it should be present. If it's not present, then there's problem and we need to throw an error. This is the email package it's going to check, and the password should be any string, and the token need not be confirmed, and the token need not be validated because it's on the server side and not sent from the front end. And the last thing is basically module.exports. We are going to export both the user, that is the schema, and the validate user. Sounds good? Now we are going to write the connection. Okay, so the connection URL that we got here, let's write this down here and name it as Mongo URI, and just write your connection string here. Now let's go inside the database folder and create a database.js file which will have the code to connect to our database. Mongoose is going to require Mongoose, and get your URI from there. Mongo URI from process.env, and just connect directly. It's going to be an asynchronous connection. Why? Node.js is basically asynchronous programming. Why? Because to give a smooth appearance to the user. So for example, what do I mean? So like when you are connecting to the database, then you don't stop the user from seeing the first page. Albeit you are connecting to the database in the background, but you don't want to block the user experience. Only when you access any kind of database related stuff, then you will need the database connection to be set up. So that is why we are going to do the database connection asynchronously, so that it does not block the pages that the user will be able to see when they are not logged in or when they are not connected to the database. Cool. Now what we are going to do is just do the connection URL connection code. So mongoose dot connect mongo URI, and so mongoose.connect mongo URI, the one that you got from the .env file, and you don't need all this. Directly just do this, and if it succeeds, so this is the syntax of asynchronous programming. Dot then means if it succeeds, then you are going to print console.log MongoDB connected, and if it runs into any kind of error, you're going to print the error so that we can debug and understand what's going wrong. So now we have the connection to the database done. We have the user schema done. Next thing comes the routers. Next thing comes the routes. So inside the routes, we are going to have /API/signup and /API/login. So /API/signup is going to sign up our user to the database, which means adding an entry to the database based on the schema that we have provided. And /API/login is going to just provide the email and password or username and password and match it with our database. If it exists, then good, and we'll be able to log in, and if it doesn't, then bad, and it will say that user is not inside the database, please register. Sounds good? So let's write the routes. Create index.js here. Now comes const router would be require express.router, and const user controller is going to be exactly. So it's going to require the user controller inside the controllers folder. But controllers folder is empty right now, right? So we'll come to that after we write the routes. So what does route basically do? It calls the user controllers sign up function when we do /API/signup, and it calls the user controllers login function when we do /API/login. Very simple, very easy. Let's keep the name as user. And we are going to do router.host/signup user controller.signup, and /login would be user controller.login. And the last thing that we always do in all kinds of file is export, because if we don't export it, then we won't be able to use it in other files. So module, this is a module and it exports the router class that we have gotten here and the updated router class with all the post functionality. If we did something get, then get functionality, etc. Now definitely we need to write the controllers. Code. As I said, this is the business logic. So routers will check whether the endpoint is /API/signup, and if it is so, then it will call user controller.signup. Let's write here user.js because it's kind of the /signin, /signup and /login are based on user. So we are going to name it user.js. So let's have here const user validate. We are going to require exactly the models.user. Remember, we wrote a validate user function. So this is the time to call it inside the controller. Why? Because when the router says /API/signup with all the data, then we want to pass it over the controllers to validate whether the data is correct or not. And then what we'll do is we'll use the MongoDB connection to our database to update it to this model, which is the user schema. Okay? Yeah, we'll need bcrypt and JWT. JWT I already explained, and bcrypt is basically a package to encrypt the password so that when we are sending it over the network, we are not sending the raw password, because any kind of hacker can get in and get your password, which we don't want. Exports.signup is going to be asynchronous request and response. What is this? So request is the request that we are sending, which is the body, which is the post request to /API/signup with our data, user data, that is first name, last name, email, password and username inside the body. Okay, let's see. So we are going to call the validate function. If you remember, this is this validate function. Okay, sorry, we have exported it as validate user, so we definitely should import as validate user, and we should call it as validate user. Okay, so this is going to be request.body. We are going to validate the body whether it's in the correct schema or not, and if it's error, then we just send an error message back talking about the message. Then we just send an error message back to the server. Sorry, then we just send, so this is the server, we are going to send, and so if it's an error message, then we are going to just send 400 back to the front end. So const first name, last name, username, email and password is going to be from the request.body. We should get all that. Now what we are going to do, if it's old user, then we are going to say that user is already present in the database, so just directly log in, no need to sign up. User.find1 email, you can find it with the email. And if it's old user, then you're going to send, if it's old user, then you're going to send 409 status back to the front end saying that the user already exists and please log in directly. Now we are going to hash the password. So hashed password is going to be bcrypt.hash password, and 10 is basically a salt value that we use, which is unique based on the password and which is used to decrypt later on the server side to store the exact password. Now what we are going to do is we have the user, which is the user schema here, and we are just going to, and this is from the Mongoose, right? You remember? This is from the Mongoose. So Mongoose is what? It's the front end package for our MongoDB database. So this user schema directly, it's okay. So one thing I missed here is const user should be mongoose.model user with the user schema. We didn't even have the user and it was pointless exporting it. So now that we have the user and we are importing it from this module, Next, we are going to hash the password, and next thing is we are going to just create the new user inside the MongoDB database. So this is just simply let user, new user, and all the first name, last name, username, email, and password. This is very important. This should not be synchronous. This should be asynchronous. So we are going to do user.create, and this is going to be asynchronously. And we are going to wait for it to be created. And once it's created successfully, we are going to show that the user has signed up successfully. And yeah, we are going to create the JWT token at the same time because the user has been created and it exists. It's a valid user. So token is jwt.sign, and we are going to have, okay, so all the variables should always be written in lowercase. So this is going to be user.id and email, and this is going to be a token secret key. This can be anything and expires in 2 hours. Yeah, obviously you cannot be logged into a website forever. And user.token is going to be token because we have set the token now, and we are going to return the status as 201.json.user, which suggests that our user has been created now successfully. Sounds good? But there's one thing that I missed, which is always write every kind of function inside try catch block. Why? Because any kind of thing could go wrong at any point of time. So you should be able to handle the errors correctly because that's the sign of a good programmer. You're going to send internal server error, whatever. One thing that is left is, as I was saying, it was the API endpoint was /API/signup and /API/login, right? So where did we give the /API? We didn't, right? So we should have it here. So app.get app.use/API app.use/API is going to use the router, but we haven't imported router yet, so let's import it. So const router is going to be require routes slash going to be ./route/index router. And at the same time, we are also going to require the database to be connected. Now, as you saw that all this is done, which looks really good. Yeah, it cannot find the module. See, cannot find the module mongoose. So we are going to need to do npm I mongoose. Just look at whatever we imported right now. One is mongoose. The other one is Joey. The other one is bcrypt, and the other one is JSON web token. Let's install all of them now. Sounds good? Let's restart the application. Right. So we haven't implemented login yet. So we shouldn't have this. And I haven't added my connection URL yet. Right. So we haven't implemented login yet. So we shouldn't have this. And I haven't added my connection URL yet. Okay, so now you can see these are all the entries that are inside test.users. So we are going to add a new entry which does not belong here because we are trying to sign up. So go inside here and then make a new entry, which is, suppose I'm just editing this inside body. So I'm just going to create a new request which is inside body, and then inside body just write any kind of name that you want. Say it's going to be Jonathan, and next thing could be Kumar, and this can be Jonathan. This can also be Jonathan, and this can be Jonathan as well. 1 2 3 4 whatever. Just remember the first name, last name, email, jonathan@gmail.com and Jonathan 1 2 3 4. is the endpoint API/signup, and let's see, let's send the request. See, perfect. This is the first name, last name you got, username you got back, email, and the password is stored in the form of, like as I said, it's going to be stored in the form of hash. And this is basically the token or the JWT token that is right now available and that has been created on server side, so that when you log in, this token will be used to identify the user. So definitely save your response to a particular file, which is response.json, inside the project that we are currently at, which is Node app. Sounds good. Now let's go ahead and check here. If you remember, only 4 entries were there. Now there should be 5 entries. Let's see. So see, 5 entries. We have Sonali, and lastly we have Jonathan Kumar, this, and the password is stored here. Perfect. So our /API/signup endpoint is working perfectly. Normal /endpoint is also working perfectly. So now that we have done with the backend, we are now going to move to the front end, and we are going to do the ReactJS application. So the ReactJS application, for this you are going to do nps create react app and then dot. This is creating a new React application inside frontend folder. It's going to set up everything that you need, the package.json and all the files that you will need. And at the end, you will basically see a working ReactJS application hosted at localhost port 3000, and then you can make changes accordingly. Okay, so now that is over, so now you can simply just check here all the source applications, app.js, index.js, all these files have been created. This package.json with all the dependencies that you will need. And so now you can do npm run start, which is going to start the application. Go inside localhost 3000 and you'll be able to see it. This is the one that have been created right now. What we are going to do is we are going to have a simple form here with React. And when we enter our details, like the one that I showed in Postman, first name, last name, username, etc., then it will show sign up completed successfully, and you will be able to see the username being shown like hello username. That's what we are going to build here. So very simple way of doing this is basically to create inside the front-end folder, inside source folder, create components. So just remember that everything in React is a component. So the way we deal with it is that, like, all kind, like for example, let's say there's a navigation bar, for example, let's say there's a button. These are all separate components, which makes it easier for us to handle this. Okay, so in here you're going to just do signup_form.js. So inside the signup_form.js, you're going to write the signup code, which is very simple. Just follow along and you will get it. You're going to import React and use state from React. Next, we are going to write the component, which is the signup form. Yeah, so let's accept this. So const form data and set form data. So what does this exactly do? And as you already know, it's not just this, it's also first name and last name. So, and the username and the email and the password, right? And this is the entire thing. So let me tell you in detail what this actually does. So what this use state does is it's kind of a hook. So what do I mean by that? So this is the form data, right? So as soon as anything changes the form data, we are going to set the form data with the help of set form data. For example, let's say there's an image. So the image will only be able to see if the first name field is filled, right? So the image is going to depend on the first name, and that's when we are going to use this hook to determine whether the first name has changed or not, because if first name is changed, then the image uploading data will also be changed. That's the basic idea. No need to worry too much. This is the standard format. Use this. So set form data is going to set our form data, and we are going to show a message that signed up successfully at the end. So that is why it's going to have a message, and again set message is going to set the message based on what's the form. Like for example, when we are submitting it and it's able to solve the submission perfectly without any error, then it's going to set the message to sign up successfully. In the beginning, it's going to be just empty string, which is this one. Like for example, this is the default value, which is empty. This is the default value, which is empty. Okay. So now we are going to have a const handle change, which is a function that is going to depend on an event. So when a field is being clicked and we are doing handle change, then what happens is that, so for example, let's say we have a field called first name and we are entering the first name and adding it, and we do enter. So this means that the field has been changed and it triggers, that's an event. This is an event and this is going to trigger this handle change function. So once this event changes, then it's going to set the form data correctly. Got it? And obviously we are going to have similarly a handle submit, which is going to call the backend API that we have written, which is not 5000, it's 3001. As you know, it's being hosted right now. This is the one, it's being hosted on 3001 right now. And we're going to call /API/signup, the one that we have written, and it's going to be post. The headers is going to be content type application JSON, and the body is going to be JSON stringify form data, the one that we have written above. This is the one. Next thing is we are going to await for the response, and if the response is okay, then our message is going to be sign up is successful. Otherwise, it's going to be the error whatever we are getting, so that the user is able to debug. And then finally, it's going to return the sign up form, which is basically a div with a form. So form on submit, handle submit, and we are going to have input, and then name is going to be equal to first name, placeholder first name, handle change. Obviously, if it changes, then you're going to trigger on handle change, obviously. And on handle change, just what? It sets the form data. This form data gets updated based on what changes we are doing on the front end. This variable gets updated. I hope I'm able to make you understand this. And this is going to be username, the username, and this is going to be email and password, and button is finally submit, so it says sign up. And finally, when it gets done successfully, then you are going to get the message, and this message is going to be displayed here. And finally, we are going to have export default sign up form. That's it. Sounds good. Now what we are going to do is we are going to just import this inside app.js. Go inside here, do import sign up form from component sign up form, and then inside here we don't need all this. We are just going to need one thing, which is the sign up form. Sign up form. Yeah. There you go. Done. Perfect. It is not needed. Let's remove this. This is not going to look very good because it's very bare minimum, but you can improve it with the help of tailwind.css, or you can just copy this and then put it inside ChatGPT and make it better looking, because anyway, backend is the most important. If you want to go for frontend, I'll also make another video on that, so stay tuned. So let's do npm start. Let's go ahead and check what we are able to get right now. See, here's the form that we have gotten finally, perfectly. And let's write. So first name can be, I don't know, Sunil. Last name can be Das. Username can be Sunil. Email can be sunil@gmail.com. And password can be 12345. So we are going to do sign up. Sign up successful. Perfect. Now let's go inside cluster, and here you see 6. Let's refresh. It should be 7, and we should be able to see the one that we added right now. 7. Perfect. And we have here Sunil Das, the one that we added right now. So perfect. This is working perfectly. Now, if you want to basically improve this, then I'm going to suggest just using ChatGPT, which I believe all of you are using right now a lot. So I can just show you, it can make it perfect. Just add this one, make it better looking. That's it. And whatever it does, just copy and paste it inside. See, it added a lot of CSS, which is going to make our form look better. Modern sign up form. Perfect. Just do copy here. Great. And then paste it here. Did it import anything? Nothing. So if it didn't import anything, then we are safe, because if it imported, then we needed to add it. So it definitely made it better. Could have been made better as well, and you could also ask it to make it even better, but that's your choice, and it works as expected, as we have done. And I would suggest using tailwind.css, because that's the popular framework that is often used to beautify our websites. So it has a lucid React. So what you are going to need to do here is npm I lucid React. Whenever it adds any kind of package, just do that and you should be all good. Yeah, let's see. Great, it looks much better already. Perfect. So you can use anything you want. Just remember what I said. Honestly, I got this amazing project idea from educative.io, which has a lot of such amazing projects, be it backend projects, front-end projects. They have so many courses on React, Node.js, building full stack end-to-end applications. There's an image sharing app. There are so many things that you can avail. There's a sale going on right now, and I'd encourage you all to check it out and definitely purchase the course. Since these videos are quite long, you can use nodegpt.io. Just copy the link from here and then paste it in here and click on summarize. This will summarize the entire video. You can also chat with it, and you can also make notes of it and make mind maps and presentations. Yeah, so this is the summary it has generated, and this is the entire chapter that it has generated. You can chat here, and you can create a mind map here, which is awesome and helpful to remember all the concepts. And you can also create presentations, as you can see right here, and this will help you to create any kind of templated presentations. Choose any kind of template as you want, quite pretty, and you can also edit it as you want.